Hello and welcome back to the Fruit of Grisaia, Yumiko's route. In the last episode, Yuuji had rescued Yumiko and they had started a life where Yumiko's father probably wouldn't find them. Yuuji then talked to his superior JB, who asked him about his real feelings for Yumiko. Let's continue. Desires are a natural part of life. Putting aside the basic cravings for food, sleep, and excretion that help keep us alive, there's a whole range of secondary urges that are at least possible to endure. Sexual desire is often called the strongest among these. As a fairly typical example of the male gender, I've got a fair amount of lust to go around myself. My previous employer went out of their way to provide us ways to scratch this particular itch. However, when it comes to the female sex drive, my knowledge is somewhat spotty. It's long been said that men and women experience the sexual urges that begin with puberty in very different ways. And I've interacted with a number of females who seem, at a glance, completely lacking in such desires. Sakaki Yumiko would be one such case in point. We've been living in one room for months now, spreading out our bedding only a few feet away from each other. But nonetheless, she's giving every indication of viewing me as a part of the furniture rather than a member of the opposite sex. It had been a long day on the job. After dinner I went to bed a little earlier than usual. Yumiko didn't have anything in particular to do either, so she climbed in her futon at the same time and soon fell quietly asleep. Can't fall asleep tonight for some reason. Although Yumiko's already breathing quietly a few feet away, it's proving very difficult to nod off myself. After a while I close my eyes and just pretend to sleep. There wasn't really any thought behind that. It's pretty common for me to have trouble sleeping, and sometimes this helps. No reason to disturb Yumiko by tossing and turning around either. But the young woman in question abruptly sits up, pulls back her blanket and walks quietly off toward the bathroom. Yumiko returns quietly to the bedroom only a minute or so later. I lie quietly, wide awake, waiting for the sound of her slipping back into her futon. Which doesn't seem to be happening. What's this? For some reason, Yumiko doesn't seem too eager to get back in bed. I open an eye just a crack. She's standing expressionless between her futons, staring fixedly down at me. He's sleeping, isn't he? After muttering a question to no one in particular, Yumiko quietly lowers herself to the ground next to me, her legs splaying out to one side. What's this girl thinking? I decide to keep breathing softly and allow her to think I'm unconscious. Hypothetically, if she viewed me as an enemy or bore some grudge, this could be interpreted as the preliminary stage of an assassination attempt. I'm confident that that's not the case right now. Yumiko definitely trusts me. That said, we're talking about a woman who tried to slap me in the face the first day we met, and spent a good amount of time attempting to stab me. That's in the past now, but she's definitely prone to expressing herself in violent ways. Just to be on the safe side, I focus my attention on Yumiko without opening my eyes and wait alertly for her next movement. However, what comes next takes me by complete surprise. Yumiko swallows audibly, holds her breath, and something subtle touches my lips. For a moment I thought it might be her finger, but there's no way it would feel quite this soft. The instant I feel her breath on my nose, I realize that she's pressing her lips against mine. A sweet, distinctive scent tickles the inside of my nose. Oh, what the? Seriously? Oh, crap. Unfortunately, I can't keep my lips from twitching a little. Yumiko instantly jerks back. He moved, even though he's asleep. Yumiko stares down at me in an expression of absolute shock. I don't know what she was thinking, but if she's frightened enough to cut things off here, that's fine by me. Hopefully I'll be able to fall asleep soon. What? Again? Once again, Yumiko presses her mouth against mine. And this time, she's a lot bolder about it. What is she thinking? Considering how things have been until now, this is just incomprehensible. I mean, if this were, say, Amane, hehe, look at Yuuji sleeping all peacefully. Brace yourself, Big Sis is gonna make sure you have some real nice dreams. Would probably be the thought process, but right now we're talking about Yumiko. It's hard to imagine she's got that sort of sadistic streak, so why is she doing this? Maybe she's just curious. After months of living together intimately with a member of the opposite gender, Yumiko's developed an interest in sex. But the subject's too awkward to discuss, so she decides to try some furtive exploration. That's a fairly reasonable explanation. In fact, I almost hope it's true. Considering how badly Yumiko's unhappy past has weighed her down, seeing her act in such a human way would be something to celebrate. Might be a sign she's starting to break out of that defensive shell. Even as I'm pondering these matters, the girl continues to mash her mouth against mine in an increasingly ardent fashion. Guess I've got no choice but to call things to a halt somehow. Yumiko presumably believes I'm asleep and oblivious, but keeping up that charade at this point might give her the wrong idea. Normally speaking, anyone except the deepest of deep sleepers is going to wake up when someone's kissing them this intensely. Feel bad about interrupting, but for her sake and mine, the girl needs to learn that she's playing with fire. In order to defend my dignity, educate Yumiko, and prevent any unfortunate physical reactions, I reluctantly take action. Got it out. Turning my face away from Yumiko, I forcibly tear her lips apart. Ah! Flinching with shock, Yumiko jumps away from me. Her eyes open to perfect circles as it finally dawns on her that she's taken things too far. Her mouth's trembling uncontrollably. It's a pretty pitiful spectacle. She looks down at me with an uncharacteristic expression of absolute covert terror, waiting to see how I'll respond to discovering her misdeed. Got it out, Yuuji. Huh? Using every ounce of acting ability I possess, I continue mumbling in a sleep-addled voice. Seriously, Yuuji, save it for when we're awake, alright? I repeat the name clearly to make sure Yumiko catches it. And then I very obviously fall back asleep, or pretend to at least. It was a pretty crappy performance by any standard, but... Did I get away with it? Yes, that's right. He clearly didn't think it was me. At the moment, it's much more convenient for Yumiko to believe that I was talking in my sleep, so she easily accepts the charade. I can hear her let out a short sigh of what sounds like a profound relief. It's obvious how shaken up she was with the experience. I can't help feeling a little guilty. But still, I had no idea Yumiko was interested in this sort of thing. Once again, I reflect on her sudden lapse of judgment. Her previous circumstances were abnormal enough that it wasn't always obvious, but Yumiko has desires like anyone else. Guess it might be time to think about her needs as well. I think this warrants a slight change in the status quo. Tomorrow I'll find the right moment and bring up the matter openly. No more indirect nosing around. It's a rather, extremely dangerous gamble, but I also stand to gain a clear answer to that unresolved question from a few days ago. Yumiko lets out a sigh overflowing with ennui, then burrows back under the covers of her bed. Sorry, Yumiko, and while I'm at it, sorry, Yuuji. With a few words of apology to my roommate and the long-suffering superior I just slandered unjustly, I return once again to my feigned sleep. The next morning, I wake up as if nothing happened and prepare breakfast for myself and Yumiko. I'm off from work today, so there's no real need to get up at the crack of dawn, but I decided it would be best to create an opportunity for the two of us to talk as quickly as possible. Good morning. Hey. No doubt thanks to her emotionally draining night, Yumiko seems a little languid this morning. She totters off drowsily toward the washroom and proceeds to splash water on her face for a while. Seems perfectly at ease, not a hint of tension in the air. In other words, she convinced herself I'm unaware of the incident last night. Awfully carefree, aren't we? Thank you for the food. Let's eat. Just as always, Yumiko chews the salt-grilled salmon with a small, quiet movement of her mouth. Judging from her expression, she's completely off guard. Not that she has any reason to expect what's coming. Should I really say it? I'm still more than a little hesitant. When a man and a woman live together without a clearly defined relationship, it's not surprising that tensions of this nature might arise. It'd be short-sighted to pretend last night never happened. I want to clear the air, and Yumiko's probably feeling some subtle awkwardness and guilt herself. That said, the last thing I need is for this to turn into some overblown drama. Alright, I think this calls for a very natural, casual approach. I choose my words carefully, aiming to keep this a light breakfast table chat. Hey Yumiko. Yes? As Yumiko casually sips her miso soup, I ask my question in the most nonchalant tone of voice I can muster. You kissed me in my sleep last night, didn't you? She promptly chokes on her soup and begins coughing violently. Where on earth did that come from? I was thinking this might go smoother if I brought it up casually during a meal, but it seems that didn't work out so well. Of course not. Anyway, what's with that ridiculous accusation? Are you mocking me? Yumiko flat out denies the truth in a desperate attempt to retroactively undo her folly. This isn't good. She seems to be getting somewhat emotional. But since I've broached the subject, I can't allow her to squirm out of the discussion. Stealing my nerves, I push bluntly forward. Sorry, but I was awake the whole time. What are you talking about? I did no such thing. A little after 11 last night, wasn't it? Lasted about 10 or 15 minutes after you came back from the bathroom. That's not... Yumiko quickly falters under my skeptical gaze. Yes, maybe I did. And in a deeply mortified voice, she finally owns up to her misdeed. Alright, maybe I did, but that was just because it looked like you weren't breathing. So I was worried and leaned in close to check, and well, completely flustered, she begins babbling incoherently. I'm tempted to ask her if her conception of CPR is limited to repeatedly kissing someone, but this probably isn't the time to be mocking the girl. I stare at Yumiko straight in the eyes, then gravely lower my head in apology. My apologies for not realizing sooner. Huh? Yumiko, it's not an excuse, but I genuinely had no idea you were so sexually frustrated. What? I bought into the stereotypes about women having lower libidos, convinced myself Amano was just an exception to the rule. Whoa, hold on, stop! Waving her arms about as if to signal a halt, Yumiko interrupts with an agitated tone of voice. Please don't tell me you think I did that because I'm sexually frustrated. Well, from an objective point of view, I think it's the most plausible explanation. When someone who hasn't experienced any clear feelings for you suddenly makes that aggressive a move, I'm not sure what other conclusion there is to draw. But as I'm reviewing my reasoning, Yumiko's expression grows increasingly sour. I knew it. I just knew it. You haven't realized anything at all. With a heavy sigh, she moves her shoulders up and down in an exaggerated shrug. In the next moment, Yumiko's body begins to tremble with something that seems suspiciously akin to rage. Hey, follow-up question. Was I just incredibly rude to you by any chance? Yes, you certainly were. I don't have it with me anymore, but I'm about ready to whip out you-know-what for the first time in a while. Come to think of it, we left that box cutter of hers behind when we ran away. Since Yumiko remembered that thing, it's clear that she is abnormally furious. And it's equally obvious where the anger is coming from. My cluelessness drove her straight into a corner. I step toward Yumiko and wrap my arms around her without a word. What? Kasami-kun? Sorry, my bad, seriously. As I embrace her and apologize, she finally begins to settle down a little. I didn't bring this up because I wanted to mock you for having a healthy interest in the opposite sex, Yumiko. Really? I wasn't sure if you had feelings for me, so I honestly didn't know what to do. Until now. Does that mean? Yeah. I finally got my answer. Yumiko's been hiding romantic feelings for me. I just wasn't observant enough to see them. My well-intentioned watch and wait policy ended up driving her to this humiliating moment. I have disgraced myself as a man. Since I finally understand, there's no reason for me to keep hesitating. Pulling slightly away from Yumiko's body, I stare straight down into her face. Yumiko, I love you. I want to make you happy. I also want to sleep with you. Sound like a plan? Yumiko closes her eyes and lets her shoulders slump limply downward. She heaves a long, long sigh, reminiscent of a balloon slowly deflating. Ow. And proceeds to slap me lightly on the cheek. Honestly, you are completely ridiculous. She's not crying or scowling, but there's a distinctly disgruntled expression on her face. First you barrage me with rude nonsense out of nowhere, and then all of a sudden it's I love you, I want to sleep with you. How do you not give yourself whiplash? My apologies. You really don't play fair. You just sat there and did nothing, waiting for me to make the first move. Coward. My sincerest apologies. I swear. Oh, she's even smirking. She's got a cute face once she gets past the whole anger and box cutter thing. I swear. At last, a mildly exasperated smile spreads across Yumiko's face. You're the only thing I have left now. And she reaches out once more, this time to offer me her hand. I take it and gently pull her body forward to lean against mine. It's alright with me. I don't know what I'm supposed to do, but I'm willing. Right. I feel the weight once again. Compared to when she's standing normally, holding Yumiko's slender body in my arms makes her seem extremely small. But inside that body, she's carrying all that loneliness of her past and uncertainty of her present. The more I think about it, the more absurdly heavy she feels. I'm ready for this. I wouldn't have been living with her in the first place if I wasn't. Still, I'm crossing a very serious line here. All the more so given her situation. Okay then, I'll relax and leave everything to me. Alright. Yumiko answers my words with a small nod. Her voice conveys simple, absolute trust. That, too, adds the weight to my shoulders. It's been a few hours since then. Having dressed herself and brushed her hair, Yumiko is currently wandering restlessly around the room, groaning at no one in particular. The girl's usual composure seems to have deserted her entirely. Look, can you try to calm down already? This isn't like you, Yumiko. Leave me alone. You've seen plenty of things that aren't like me lately. It's a little late to... What on earth am I saying? Having dug her own grave and then buried herself in it, Yumiko laments loudly. It's a pretty charming spectacle, but at this rate I don't know if she'll ever get a hold of herself. Alright, maybe this'll help you settle down a little. Yeah. Pulling Yumiko into my arms, I brush her hair back and press my lips against her. When I release my hold on her face, the girl blinks up at me for a moment, then abruptly grows bashful. No. Blushing from ear to ear, Yumiko tries to hide her face behind one hand. I'm not exactly the world's foremost connoisseur of cuteness, but this transformation is just too extreme. The sugar rush leaves me a little dizzy. We really did it? Yumiko mumbles the words to herself as if she's still not quite convinced they are true. I know, right? Pretty unbelievable considering where we started out. At first our communication was limited to slaps to the face and slashes with the blade, and before you know it, we ended up here. I guess you could just shrug your shoulders and call it fate. Chance and coincidence did play a large part. Even so, I can't help feeling this all happened for a reason. Hey Yumiko. Huh? What now, Kasami? Kya? I hug Yumiko again, much more tightly than before, and stroke one hand slowly down through her long hair. Let me say it again. I'm going to keep you safe, no matter what. That's a promise. Kasami-kun. I'll be where you are, Yumiko. I won't leave you alone. Sakaki Yumiko was always on her own, always isolated. Gaining something new after all that time alone was bewildering. When the fog cleared and she realized what she wanted, it would almost frightened her. She didn't know what to do. And that's why I need to make this crystal clear. I'm right here, not just to protect you, but to be with you. Have anything to say to that? A slightly apologetic expression flits across Yumiko's face, but as she looks up at me, it fades into a small smile. Yes, thank you. That's what I was hoping for. There's no need for apologies anymore. The only thing Yumiko and I need to give each other now is gratitude. Alright then, Now that we have that settled, let's fix that Kasami code of yours immediately.
What?
You heard me. It'd be pretty damn weird to keep calling me by my last name at this point, don't you think?
Don't say that. This is too sudden. I need time to, prepare myself.
And how long is that going to take?
Well,
Yumiko looks up at me with a hint of reproach in her eyes, but after a moment she breathed in deeply as if to steel herself.
I understand. I'll use your name from now on.
Okay then, let's hear it.
Once again the girl takes a deep breath. This time she begins mumbling softly to herself like a nervous middle school student preparing to recite pi from memory. And then, in a barely audible murmur, Yuuji. The instant the word squeaks out of Yumiko's mouth, her face appears to burst into flame. I'm not used to calling you that. It's embarrassing, alright? This contrast is really something. I think I'm embarrassed by proxy. In any case, all my points of concern regarding our relationship have now been decisively resolved. We're still fugitives with an uncertain future, but somehow I think I've gained a little peace of mind.
What's wrong?
All of a sudden, Yumiko seems to remember something. Her expression grows oddly serious. Didn't you say you were awake the whole time last night?
That's right. Wait, is there something else?
Before I can even finish the sentence, Yumiko's thin fingers dig into my arm with a vicious pinch.
Ow!
Would you mind explaining the details of your history with Harudira-san?
Say, what?
There's a story there, yes, and there's no way you just came up with that on the spur of the moment. Yumiko's unexpected night raid helped us understand each other's feelings. It was a truly fortunate event in that respect. But from that day on, I found myself sitting on my heels in penance every afternoon and during interrogations into my previous romantic career.
This concludes the report from all the detective agencies and investigation firms currently in our employ. The sphere of investigation is now spread from Kanto to Tokai to include the Kinki region, but as of yet they haven't found anything that would qualify as a definite clue. I'm presently in the process of contacting all parties involved and instructed them to redouble their efforts. Would you like to add anything?
Ask them. What?
I have no need for incompetence or can't find a single lead after a month of trying. Show them the door. I don't care how much money it takes, so this time get me someone who knows what they're doing. I want those two found, you understand me?
Yes, please excuse me.
Been half a year now, hasn't it? Suppose it's hardly worth asking, but has your investigation made any progress?
No, I'm very sorry to say we haven't found any real clues.
Pretty pathetic to have your own pet dog give you the slip. He disappeared so completely that I'm almost tempted to conclude you people might be guiding him behind the scenes.
President Sakagi, we already carried out
a thorough internal investigation that has cleared you of all suspicion. Yes, I suppose we have little choice but to trust that evaluation. Was there anything else?
We've confirmed that Kasami Yuuji and Yumiko-san have destroyed their personal cell phones. Hypothetically, if they were to make contact with you, it would likely be through a public telephone, should you receive any suspicious calls. This is from the Osaka branch office. Excuse me for a moment.
I'm in the middle of something. Save it for... What was that? You think it wasn't possible as an option? Kneel down in front of the man's house. I don't care what you have to do. Get me a clear commitment. The entire structure is going to crumble unless we get that crafty old bastard on our side. Use the money and use your damn brain. What did you think I handed you that wallet? Get a move on.
Please be on the lookout for any attempt at contact. Well then, I suppose I'll be on my way.
Is there something else you'd like to say?
No, nothing at all.
For some reason, as we get closer to the general meeting, there's been a good deal of suspicious movement in my vicinity. There's no point in scuttling around behind the scenes, you know. We're not idiots over here. I'll know immediately if you try anything.
I'm sorry, but what exactly are you referring to?
Very well. Feel free to play dumb. Just keep in mind that we'll respond in kind to any obvious meddling.
Please excuse me. No one's going to take this away from me. No one.
Not sure how many times I need to say this before you get the message. I'm not planning to give myself up.
I see. That's unfortunate. Once again, JP and I engage in our regularly scheduled, regularly formulaic conversation. She has classical playing in the background today. The volume seems just slightly louder than usual. There's no immediate danger approaching, but a good deal of caution is warranted. A comparatively calm state of affairs. Of course, it's never wise to feel completely at ease when you're on the run. But the lack of urgent problems does soften the psychological pressure a bit. So, how are you doing out there? Eating proper meals? You are taking care of yourself, right?
Yeah, no problem. No problems worth mentioning.
Sounds like a conversation between a college student in the big city and his anxious helicopter mom. Then again, I guess I'm something of a pseudo-son to JB, so there's nothing inherently strange about her worrying about me. It's just more than a little comical under the circumstances. Of course, it's also a necessary part of a carefully choreographed give and take of information, but still.
That reminds me, I've got something to report, JB.
Oh, and what would that be?
I bought another cactus for my room over here, but a worm got added right away. Got a little worried there for a while. Seems they're actually capable of coexisting though. Something wrong?
I see. Well, that's nice. It's only natural, I think.
Yeah.
I borrowed JB's metaphor to inform her of recent developments. Not really the sort of thing I need to go out of my way to report, but there's no reason to hide it either. Even now, the cactus in question is no doubt waiting eagerly for the return of its worm. Yuuji, one more thing before you hang up, if that's alright.
Yeah? What?
Coexistence is a lovely thing. Just be careful about those spines. The cactus may not intend any harm, but don't forget it's a thorny, twisted little thing by nature.
That's some way to talk about the poor plant.
A little bluntness is called for under the circumstances. I doubt you've forgotten, but you are a fugitive. Try to keep that in mind. Goodbye.
I'm aware. Thanks.
The two of us have connected in the midst of a strange and unstable situation. It's going to be very difficult to maintain this peaceful balance for much longer. But for the moment, Yumiko, and for Yumiko's sake and mine, I don't want her to be too conscious of that. Change is constant and ever-present. Time moves us forward whether we like it or not. We bump into other people, unpredictably external factors that knock us off course. Our thoughts, our environments, our place in the world, even our ideology, everything shifts. And even in a world that's defined by change, human relationships are about as astonishingly volatile as it gets. We go from life to death, family to strangers, strangers to family. We meet and part, make allies and enemies, crown winners and mark losers. Some gain independence while others sink into servitude. Some submit and some rebel. Goodwill can change to hatred in the blink of an eye, and hatred to goodwill. Sometimes people fight their best friend to the death in the struggle for power. Sometimes people sell their family for trivial sums of money. Sometimes the subordinate who'd been treated like a dog launches a coup d'etat. Sometimes the dictator finds himself groveling like a worm before his old throne. I've seen it all. In the scope of things, the case of Kasami Yuuji and Sakaki Yumiko isn't anything out of the ordinary, but the last few months have certainly been full of changes. We started off as strangers, then mortal enemies, wary doormaids, the daughter of a client and the representative of a certain company, a guard and his principal, co-conspirators and fugitives. And now, a man and a woman. It was a pretty tangled road that brought us here. As for where it will lead us next, who the hell knows? Certainly not the two people traveling it together. And that's where we'll end this episode. So, another thing before I end this episode entirely. Seeing as the fruit of Grisaia is coming towards something of an end. We're not there yet, but obviously this series will end at some point. I have begun a petition to ask what visual novel I should do next. And while obviously I could go for other series of the Grisaia variant, I feel that I should let my viewers and people that watch the stuff I do
decide that particular series. So in the description, description of this video, you can find a link to a straw poll where you can go in and vote on any of the titles I have suggested. I think there are a total of 12 or 10 different options to choose from, and you cannot only choose one. You can choose as many as you find interesting, and I would really like for you to do that, because that is interacting with your viewers, and I really like to do that a bit more. So rather than just me being just the YouTuber saying I will do a series of this, I would like some input. So go in, click the link, select all of the titles that you find interesting, and yeah, until next time, take care.